The show's pretty bad too, so don't worry about it.
I'm Haley.
I'm John.
And I'm Will.
And we're from Crimson Comet, a podcast member of the Gonna Geek Network.
Just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of the individual host.
Check out other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. And get ready, because geekiness begins in
3,
2,
1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
I'm an IT guy. You should never delete. Most of the time you delete, you regret deleting.
They rage.
You guys are being like hypersensitive with your point to be offended. Oh, he deleted his Twitter account. Oh, I'm mad. What?
And sometimes they're even funny.
Tell your wife that I said hello again and sorry I couldn't be there tonight.
It's okay. Your wife says hi too.
Let me emphasize that. Sometimes. Welcome to the GonnaGeek.com podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 117 of the GonnaGeek.com podcast. We are here live, as mentioned last week, at a special time on Monday. That's right. We thought we would give you up-to-the-minute election coverage, Canadian election coverage. No, we're not doing that tonight, but it is Canada's election day. So if you get bored with this, go ahead and flip on the election results. You'll quickly find that it is slightly more entertaining. I am Stephen John Drew, and with me today is the full crew, Chris Farrell.
Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
That's right. More important than Canadian Election Day is Star Wars trailer release day. We also have Stargate Pioneer.
I bid you hello. I bid you hello, sir.
And also the real French-Canadian sensation with a brand new microphone stand. What's going on, JS?
I bid you farewell, sir.
Bye.
How's everybody's weeks going? Oh, it's kind of weird saying that on a Monday.
Star Wars.
It's done. Work is done. Waiting for Star Wars.
Yeah.
You mean the new Death Star?
Oh man. And we do assure you, listener / viewer, if you are watching this, we will absolutely pause to go and watch the trailer and then come back and report if it does launch while we are recording this. Absolutely, we will do our due diligence and pause for that. But let's go ahead and move on to our first segment. Shall we do that?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. All right, so news this week. What do we got going on in the news? Let's start with the one and only rocket scientist, Stargate Pioneer. What's going on, SB?
Well, I run a podcast on Marvel, on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's called Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And upcoming next May is a big Captain America movie called Civil War, and it's all about registration. And guess what? The FAA is now going to require you to register your recreational drone. As an operator now in the United States, you have to register it. Now, it's not today. They're going to come out with this regulations later this spring, but when they do, you need to register. No more drone for you. No more silent drone, no more spy drone. Nope, you need to register it so they can spank you, they can slap you if you do something bad.
Well, how are they going to figure? Like, are you going to have to put like some type of
chip?
RF? Yeah.
Yep. RFID chip. Yep. I'm sure that you'll.
Because let's look at this here. Let's look at this logically. $300 drone or a federal offense. Which am I going to do? I will give up my $300 drone to not have to go be like, oh, you confiscated it? Sorry, that's mine.
It's probably more than $300 for some of these drones people are flying as a hobby.
Yeah, they're not $300. They're two grand.
It doesn't matter. They're still going to go and they're going to be like, I will eat the $2,000 rather than a federal offense. Absolutely.
So the bitch of it is, though, they kind of have to do it, though, because people are being morons with their drones, and they're like, I'm going to fly this over the football stadium, get real good footage and things like that. They're flying them where they really shouldn't. They've been flying them over the White House, over military bases, things like that. It's like, this is cool. I'm going to get great pictures. No, you're going to get your drone shot down if you're not careful. You're going to crash it and hurt someone in these places.
You know where they're really flying it? They're flying it over Star Wars sets so they can see
That's true too.
The Star Wars.
But I don't think they're going to force any. I think what they're going to do is you're going to have to register your serial number. So if ever they do recover your drone, they can trace you. There's no way that there's going to be like anything.
It's going to be like a license plate for a car. You're going to need to register it, and you're going to need to slap it on there.
Yeah.
It's just in case they recover it, and then they can trace you. Because right now, if they recover it,
there was actually a recent article that happened in my city here, and somebody had, I think they were the second or the third floor of their house, and they're sitting there watching TV, and what do they see outside their living room window? A drone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that was a little creepy.
South Park also skewered it pretty well.
How is it any creepier than just some person being outside of your home? Like this doesn't change anything. It's like people saying that cell phones make us antisocial. No, we've always been antisocial. It's just we're moving the technology from something to something else. There's always going to be creepy people. You think that you don't have webcams outside of your house pointing at stuff?
Third floor, JS. That's the difference.
Yeah,
I just use a ladder when I peek in your window.
Yeah,
I mean, haven't you seen Animal House?
It's not the first time they do this. I just think it's technology advancing, and I think, it needs to be regulated, but people
I know how I'm going to take care of it.
I love how you actually shot your camera there.
I was going to say, audio listener, definitely a moment worth going and checking out on the YouTubes because SP actually shot his webcam. Don't worry, he's only got like three of them, so he's got them to spare.
He shot his load.
In all seriousness, though, I do think that this is a very, very good idea, and I am excited to see this happen. It's great. I just want to say, pat yourself on the back that you guys in America can get your drone registration figured out so quickly. Gun registration. Oh, wait, never mind. Well, moving along. Chris, what do you got for your news this week?
Star Wars. No, seriously. Other than the trailer, there's a company called Open Dynamics in the UK. They have partnered with the Disney Accelerator Group to do some pretty awesome stuff. If you're not familiar with Open Dynamics, they do 3D printed robotic prosthetic hands and arms. And they are now partnering with Disney so that they can make prosthetic arms and hands for children that are modeled after some of the Marvel/Disney/Star Wars properties. So right now, they're doing 3 different bionic arms for children. The one that looks just like Iron Man's armor, one that's modeled after Elsa from Frozen, and one that looks very similar to a robotic Star Wars arm that has like glowing lightsaber-like elements in it. I think this is pretty awesome. I mean, and Disney is donating their time and doing royalty-free licenses here to get these products out so that kids can have a pretty cool-looking prosthetic arm in addition to an arm that works.
Right. We've been covering this stuff on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. for at least a year now. We always get the cool awe type news out, and there's been one thing after another, and I believe even Tony Stark, aka RDJ himself, came out, and the kid actually interfaced with him back and forth like he was Tony Stark, but he realized that he was Robert Downey Jr. So they went back and forth. It was great, and he got a little repulsive thing. But taking a look at these are awesome. These are state of the art. They look movie ready, really, and I just can't wait for these to start getting out. And they just, I mean, they're you got a Frozen one, you got an Iron Man one, and it's Star Wars. These kids are gonna love this stuff. Thank you, Disney. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some great pictures in the article we posted in the chat room, which will also be in the show notes. But I think one of the coolest things I saw in there is that you would think this would be super expensive to make. They said the prosthetics generally cost about $500. So 3D printing, man, it's amazing what you can do with 3D printing.
That's cool.
I mean, and like SP talked about the video about, SP talked about the video of Robert Downey Jr. The arm that Robert Downey Jr. gave to a kid was also done with 3D printers and things like that. So this technology is becoming hugely prevalent for the prosthetics and making things like that. I've read stories on the internet of guys finding plans for arm prosthetics on the internet and going to like use a 3D printer because for some reason some libraries have 3D printers. I don't understand why, but I wish mine did. And they're literally printing out arm prosthetics for children to use in these libraries. It's fantastic technology.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I was actually just scrolling at some 3D printers on the weekend, and I'm like, couple more years, I'm gonna own one of those. I think it'll be really fun.
I think
really
we're all gonna own one of those.
Yeah,
in a couple of years.
Yeah. The top of the line ones that go about 16 inches by 16 inches by 18 inches are about $4,000 for high quality ones, and then I have no idea how much the plastic, the ink, basically costs.
Cheap.
But
it's cheap.
How cheap?
It's pretty cheap. I can find you some stuff. It's not, the cost isn't there. The cost is the machine.
Okay.
Well, there's also 3D printers that are now doing food too. You can 3D print food.
Yeah. There's also a new. I don't know if you've seen it. They 3D prints out of. So it doesn't print. I don't know the term, but it prints out of goo. I don't know if you've seen that. So it's actually printing inside the liquid and it's pushing it up. It's really cool. It makes it more seamless. I have to find it. I don't know what it's called, but it looks just fantastic.
anything with goo sounds good. Yeah, I went there.
Okay,
I went there. This is really cool, though. Really cool, Chris. You know what isn't, though, really cool? Facebook making your phone go slow. That's not cool either. Not cool. Not cool at all. Apparently, some users are reporting that the Facebook app is indeed making your phone go a little bit slow, but more importantly, making your battery die. So what's happening is a bunch of users are coming out with this information that their battery life is quite small on their iPhones. And doing some digging, it does appear that the culprit is indeed the Facebook app. Now, this may not sound that unfamiliar to you because this has happened before, but I wanted to bring it on this here because it apparently is affecting quite a few different users. And I know that Facebook is getting a little big now. So I thought that maybe there are some users on our podcast that might have heard of Facebook, might use Facebook. And
is this replacement for MySpace we're talking about? Because I love MySpace.
It is. I personally don't think it's going to take off, but we'll see.
I tried the Facebook, and I think it's got some potential. I think it might eventually evolve into something. So we'll keep our eyes on it.
So here's the thing. They just introduced this feature. It's called Poke. That is never going to take off. I don't know why you would want to virtually poke anybody. That makes no sense at all.
That's not funny, man. That's not funny at all.
But no, seriously, just wanted to give you a heads up on this, that maybe if you are encountering some battery life issues, it could be that Facebook is indeed working on the fix. One reason that I did want to bring it up, though, was because people are sitting there complaining. I've read a bunch of articles of people complaining that Facebook is so big and how dare you make an app that is draining my battery life and slowing my phone. Look at what your Facebook application can do and realize that this is going to happen every now and then. You can beta test all you want, any program, any app, anything. Give it to users and they will break it. I don't care how many millions of dollars you spend on beta testing. You can't get it 100%. So those of you who are sitting there complaining about this, give your head a shake. Yes, it sucks, but it's gonna happen as long as you're using the Facebook.
They're going to fix it eventually, too. Let's be honest. They're pretty progressive in pushing updates out. And it's the same with lots of other apps. I saw in the chat room, Suncast was saying that Snapchat is killing his battery on his iPhone right now. So these things happen, especially as a new version of an OS comes out, because we're up to like iOS 9 or whatever that just came out. So there's probably some optimizations that need to be done. And hell, I have an Android phone. I see it a lot more there. Android is terrible about having battery sucking apps.
But you can close those apps out on Android, right? You can just close them out so that
even if you close some of them still run in the background for notifications and stuff too. And some of them are battery hogs until you manually go in there and force a shutdown of them. So, I mean, it's just another difference between iOS and Android. We've gotten into that a ton of times here. I'm not trying to make comparisons to be like, oh, this one sucks, this one's great. It's just you're going to have it on both sides of the fence.
Here's the problem, though. iPhones, they've won the fight because you know what happened? As Suncast mentioned, he uses Snapchat. And there is a lot more iPhone generation supports of the new crazy faces that you can do on Snapchat. I can't do it on my 1-year-old Moto X. It's apparently too old, so I cannot make myself puke rainbows through Snapchat, unfortunately. So iPhone, you won. Way to go. Way to go. Suncast will get that reference, and maybe three other people. But yes, if you do want to absolutely find out how you can make yourself puke rainbows, we encourage you to chime in through a variety of ways. You can do it at 567-343-GEEK. That's 567-343-4335. Please like us at Facebook at facebook.com/GonnaGeek. Follow us on Twitter at GonnaGeek. And when all else fails, please go to GonnaGeek.com and also check out the live page while you are there, because we always have a lot of live programming going on each week. So please check that out. Alrighty, so today we have a special treat. That's right, we do have a special guest interview. Now, we have an individual named Scott here. We will withhold his last name so that if he accidentally spills all sorts of secrets that we don't know exactly which one it is.
His last name is no known last name. It's
That's
Scott,
right.
No known last name.
That's right. That's right. We have Scott, known last name. And Scott is here because he has been working on something that we've talked about a couple of times on here. And it is
a laser.
It is a laser. It is called the Orion laser. But Scott, let me turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. So I'm Scott. You can go ahead and say my last name, Wisniewski. You may know Lauren from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That would be my spouse. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are very happy to have you. And Scott, you ended up approaching us because you had heard of some of the, shall we say, misunderstood folks on the internet, talking about all sorts of interesting points of view on space exploration, and you wanted to come on and talk a little bit about it. Now, for those listeners/viewers who may not be fully aware of the Orion program, why don't you go ahead and start us off and tell them a little bit about that?
Okay, so Orion was originally started back in its bid through 2004, 2005. It was supposed to be the successor to the space shuttle program in the United States. Once that program was shut down in the aftermath of everything that happened with Columbia, President Bush decided to cancel the program, basically. So Orion is originally conceived as a vehicle that was going to take us back as part of the Constellation program to the moon. The tagline was always Moon, Mars, and beyond. So there was a thought that we would, continue the current plan of talking about a Mars landing and all of that down the road. So things have changed a little bit in the subsequent years since Constellation as a whole program was canceled in 2010. So Orion's just kind of, it's evolved. It's basically the same vehicle it's always been, but the focus of the program has changed and the schedule has slipped out a lot.
Now, what exactly do you do on the Orion program?
At some point, I've been on since the very beginning, January of 2007, and I've done a lot of different things on the program by this point. So,
no doubt if you've been there that long. Wow.
Yeah, I've changed jobs a whole bunch of times. So I started out, I was a crew systems guy, dealing with how the astronauts interact with the cockpit, the seating, some of that stuff, just to make sure that the vehicle was human rated. After I did that for a couple of years, I moved on to environmental control and life support, the systems that actually keep the astronauts alive. Put in a little bit of time after that with the landing and recovery system, the parachutes and deployable airbags to upright it after it lands in the water. Went off the program for a little while after that. I came back to work on pyrotechnics and some of the vehicle mechanisms. And now I've just recently changed jobs again, and I was a systems engineer before, more of a requirements and verification sort of role. Now I'm a technical guy, actually. I moved back into environmental control and life support, and I'll be supporting that through our next flight, which is currently scheduled for mid-2018, I think.
Oh, wow. Sounds like you've had a fair share of experience in the program then, hey?
Bouncing around quite a bit, yeah. It's interesting how different every group is and how every group is also kind of the same.
So maybe for our children viewers, because I know we have a lot of those who are aspiring for what they want to be one day, how'd you get into it?
That's kind of an uninspiring story, honestly. My dad worked here. He was a United Space Alliance employee after he got out of the Navy here at Johnson Space Center in Houston. And while I was in high school, I was really interested in all the STEM stuff. I knew I wanted to be an engineer. Didn't think I'd be an aerospace engineer, but that's kind of how it worked out. But even back during high school, I was lucky enough to get selected for an apprenticeship over at JSC. And while I was over there, I worked a little bit on the canceled X-38 crew return vehicle program for station. Worked on some cockpit avionics upgrade stuff for the shuttle while I was there. It was an entry-level internship, but I got to see a lot. And I guess I kind of got the bug even more than I had it before. And just was able to end up getting an interview and a position after I got out of college.
Well, that's great. That's the best way to do it. I know a lot of folks that have gone through the internship route for going into NASA and other science groups, for lack of a better term. So what kind of degree program did you go through for that gig? What kind of engineering program, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I being a Texas local, and because both my parents went there, I went to Texas A&M University, and I went through the aerospace engineering program there, which is actually a really good engineering school.
So for those that are uninitiated to the Orion crew vehicle, they might be familiar with the Apollo vehicle from Apollo 13, from the Earth to the Moon, any one of those space shows, The Right Stuff or whatever. How can you equate the size of the Orion crew vehicle to the Apollo capsule?
So Orion is it's significantly larger. When we initially started the program, the baseline was for 6 astronauts to fly as opposed to 3 on Apollo. For a while there, I think the count actually went up to 7 for a station rescue perspective, where we might need to get astronauts off the space station. So I'm trying to remember what the outer mold line actually looks like, and I think that it's about between 50 and 60% larger than Apollo in terms of the how big it is around. It's a taller vehicle. It's significantly heavier than Apollo was. So it's definitely a bit bigger. They deliberately designed the mold line to kind of resemble the aerodynamics of Apollo because it made designing the vehicle a lot easier. But it's definitely a big scale up from what Apollo looked like.
I didn't know that, actually. I have to admit I didn't know that. And I've seen a lot of similarities, of course, visually, as an uneducated space lover. I've seen a lot of similarities, but I had no idea it was that big.
Yeah, it's definitely quite a bit bigger. It's just kind of deceptive when you look at the videos and everything of it, because it's really kind of hard to get an idea of the scale difference that you got. But,
now, obviously, being such a big product, you come with your own challenges and whatnot. But we've talked a little bit about the what was it called? The launch. I think it's a launch abort control or something like that. Launch abort system. We talked about that a little bit on this cast before. What can you tell us about that?
That's one of the few things I haven't really been terribly involved in. It's kind of an interesting design, though. I really like what they have done with it from an engineering perspective. So what's kind of novel about it is it's one large engine. you tend to get a lot of scenarios where maybe that would be a couple of different engine cores that are running simultaneously. But if you got a problem with one, then like say you have a thruster core that doesn't ignite properly or is burning propellant more slowly or something, you could get into a problem with attitude control. The vehicle could just spin out of control because one of those engines is not operating at the power level it's supposed to be. So what they did with the LAS is it's actually one big stack. And there's some directional nozzles that are kind of machined into that. You can see them on the top of the tower that actually provide the venting and attitude control, but it's all powered from the same source. So the gaskets split equally and everything works as it should with no real possibility of like a mechanical failure causing the crew to be in any more trouble than they would be if you're using that thing in the first place.
So America has lost its ability pretty much to launch humans into space. And this is meant to replace the space shuttle to truck people back and forth to low Earth orbit, but it's not out yet. So when is it scheduled to actually bring people into low Earth orbit?
Okay, so that's the cool thing. Orion isn't doing that job. That is going to be a commercial crew from now on. So the Dragon capsule from SpaceX, Cygnus is still in the running. Boeing has a product, CST-100, which I believe is going to be man-rated as well. That's going to be the servicing for the International Space Station. Orion remains an exploration vehicle. So our first manned flight is we just got a commit date from a review that NASA did with Congress and with independent estimators who checked on our progress and made sure where we were and what the true state of the program was. The public commit date for that just recently slipped from what we'd previously been advertising of 2021 for a manned flight. That is now being listed as 2023. But that much being said, there are a lot of assumptions that went into that estimate, which are kind of behind the scenes things. I guess it's public knowledge, so I suppose I can state that for the last few years, the president in his budget request has requested a different amount of money than we've received from Congress during congressional appropriations. So if we continue to get the level of funding that Congress is offering as opposed to what's been in the president's budget, I wouldn't necessarily count on it being 2023 after all. It might be a little bit sooner.
That would be awesome.
It all just depends. It all depends on how the schedule works out and how well we're able to deal with the ongoing program risks and continue our development process. So it might be a little bit sooner than that. But as I was saying, actually, we are an exploration vehicle. We're not just going to service the space station. So it might be interesting that a lot of people don't know. Our next test flight is in 2018. It's being called Exploration Mission 1, but it's really a test flight. And that is actually a translunar shot. We are. Nice. It's going to be. It's an unmanned vehicle, but we're going out past the orbit of the moon for the first time since Apollo 17 with a man-rated vehicle. And
that'll be awesome.
Then we're really looking forward to it. Obviously, we're very excited at work to be participating in that sort of activity and effort. And the 2021 flight, the first manned flight, is I believe it's a lunar orbital flight. I believe that is correct. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm spacing a little bit.
Well, you got to get that thing up there because you got to rescue Matt Damon from Mars.
It perpetually amazes me how many people think that's actually occurring right now or is based on a true story. I couldn't believe all the news reports about that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And any final words or comments or anything else that you want to set straight before we let you go there?
Not really. I mean, it's just kind of good to talk about it and let everyone, all the listeners know that, we're still working real hard on this and we're really proud about the work that we're going to do. And we look forward to hopefully dazzling everybody in 2018 with the next flight.
I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And we hope to have you back again sometime.
Yeah, it's possible. Meantime, I'll go watch some Star Wars trailers, I guess.
Yeah, I think we have a little bit of time left. I've got people on Twitter keeping me in the loop for when it's happening.
All right, well, go enjoy your Canadian politics. Bye.
porn. Sorry, it had to be done.
Before we do wrap up, I want to go ahead and thank our special guest that we had, Scott. Scott, thank you for coming on here. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And it was great to hear an insider view on the Orion program. So I will go ahead, though, and remind everybody to please go to GonnaGeek.com. Lots of great content there, as well as lots of great live content. SP, you got anything you want to plug?
Just all the great content at GonnaGeek.com. There's lots of great articles, lots of great podcasts. Go check it out.
Chris, yourself?
So I'd just like to point everyone towards the newest member of the Gonna Geek Network. Go check out the Audibly Exquisite podcast. They just joined us this week.
Ooh.
So welcome aboard, guys. And to all of our listeners, check it out.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Let's check it out right now.
JS, you got anything you want to plug? Maybe give an update on Canadian politics, which will be extremely out of date by the time the podcast comes out.
I'm predicting, unfortunately, a win for the Communist Party.
That could happen. That could happen. Which, by the way, had one of the ridings that they were on the ballot. It was very tempting.
They were on my ballot too.
They were on
my ballot. The Marxist, they were on my ballot, and the Marxist-Leninist was on my ballot, as well as the Libertarians. I was quite surprised. I wonder what they do.
Well, I don't know. Maybe another year we'll find out. But that is going to take us towards the end of the show. So, for episode 117 of the GonnaGeek.com podcast, I am voting for democracy.
Is the Star Wars trailer out yet?
I pet my Ant-Man.
I'm betting you guys $50 there's a new Death Star.
Are you betting us or the whole audience, like each person?
US or Canadian?
World.
Oh my god, you are so bankrupt.
US or Canadian, that's the important thing.
Pesos, my friends, pesos.
Bye!
From everyone here at the GonnaGeek.com podcast, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to podcast@GonnaGeek.com. You can find all of our show history at GonnaGeek.com/official podcast. And while you're there, why not head over and check out all of the geeky podcasts on the Gonna Geek Network. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week.